Hello, my friends, and welcome to another edition as we jump into the season because I am pumped. I am ready to go. The Browns are back. They are back in Berea, and this is the beginning of what we all hope will be a long and very successful season for your Cleveland Browns. My name is Andy Baskin. He is Daryl Ryder. It's always game day in Cleveland. Brought to you by our good friends at Smiley One in Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. So, Daryl, we took a little time off there because there was really nothing going on. We were sitting here and look at each other, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's a nice bobblehead you have right. Oh, that's a nice bobblehead you have right over there." Those are no, we didn't need to do that. We're not going to mess around. We want folks to have stuff when we have stuff, and so that's why we do what we do on It's Always Game Day in Cleveland. Daryl, a lot of things to talk about as we jump right in to Greenbrier coming up later in the week. Rookies report this week too, so all kinds of good stuff going on.
Yeah, rookies report Monday, veterans report Tuesday. They basically get their stuff together on Wednesday, and then the first practice down at the Greenbrier in West Virginia will be Thursday afternoon. So season 3 of It's Always Game Day in Cleveland. Excited about it, and just ready now to actually get closer and closer to real football. Because you know how I feel about training camp. It is.
Yeah, I know.
It is the month I typically dread on the calendar, just because it drags on and on and on, and it's like, can we just play some games already? But it is an important month. We'll over the next month or so talk about some of the battles positionally and roster wise that are going to take place. We'll obviously be talking a lot about Deshaun Watson and that surgically repaired shoulder. There's going to be a tremendous amount of analysis from a lot of folks about what they see from him. Just 6 practices are open to the public this year for training camp. There's a couple of reasons for that. The Greenbrier trip, obviously a big part of it. The Minnesota Vikings coming in town for a couple of joint practices, took a couple of dates off the calendar. And also too, the fact that neighborhood is going to be one big ginormous construction zone. So I think here, not only this year, but in the next couple of years, while they get that whole big $200 million development project off the ground, it would not surprise me if there are limited availabilities for Browns fans who I've talked to a few over the last month who did express to me the difficulty they had getting tickets for those few open sessions. But it should be a fun season upcoming, Andy. I know you're excited about it. I certainly am excited about it. Big things expected or I should say from the Browns here in 2020.
Let me ask you this for first question, just because you just said it. Can we expect Greenbrier again maybe next year too?
I expect might be the wrong word, but it wouldn't surprise me. I felt, and I think I told you this when after coming home from the Greenbrier last year, like they're totally going back. If they have a good season, they're totally going back. They did have a good season, went 11-5, made the playoffs for the second time in 4 years, I should say. And then, they made the decision.
Daryl, can you explain to folks what Greenbrier actually is and why it's so attractive to the Browns to want to have their practices there?
So the Greenbrier is basically this resort for the 1%. Let's be honest about it. It is a massive complex and hotel for the very wealthy.
That used to be explain to people what Greenbrier. I mean, it used to be this hidden gem for Congress.
Yeah,
in case there was a national emergency.
Yeah, it was the Cold War bunker. Back in the Cold War with Russia, it was the emergency bunker for the federal government, for the House of Representatives, the Senate, the Supreme Court, and whomever survived to be president of the United States in the event of a nuclear attack. And then obviously in the early 1990s, the Washington Post unearthed the secrets of the bunker. The Cold War had come to an end, at least in the media and politically, because I kind of feel like we're still in a Cold War with Russia. They're still not our friends. They still don't like us. We still don't like them. Well, most of us don't like them. It was going to be, it was supposed to be the safe haven, and it was maintained by the federal government. And the interesting thing about hidden in plain sight, the big blast door hidden in plain sight. You wouldn't know it. You know what I mean? If you walk by it, you wouldn't have the least bit of curiosity about it. So I took the tour last year. It was really, really cool. My favorite part of that tour was they showed us the video from the 50s and 60s there, where in the event of a nuclear explosion, here's how you protect yourself. You tip your plywood covered desk on its side and you hide behind it, or you hide under it. That was what was going to save you from nuclear annihilation. And I kind of felt bad for the gentleman that was.
What about the splinters? Those would hurt, wouldn't they?
The gentleman that was given the tour, we're watching the video, and I just burst out into laughter when they show the scene of the kids getting under the desk and covering their. I'm like, yeah, I just start laughing. Like, I go, I'm sorry. There's just something about a piece of plywood that's supposed to protect you from nuclear annihilation in a classroom that amuses me. I have a very dark, twisted sense of humor.
You do. Yes, you do, my friend.
But yeah, it's pretty cool. But what they did was, as far as why the Browns go down there, and the Saints have gone down there, the Houston Texans have gone there for camp. They built a training facility for football, sort of across the street from the actual Greenbrier Resort, and it's got 3 practice fields, 2 up top and then 1 on the bottom. And it also has a building, a facility that can be used by the team as well. So it is basically what the Browns are doing this week is packing up the Berea facility for training camp and transporting that to West Virginia. And then as soon as they're done, and probably the day before, because this is what they did last year, the day before the last practice, they pack all the gear back up onto the trucks and, get it shipped back up north because, training camp has to continue in Berea, Ohio. So it is quite.
Do they bus down there, or you guys fly down? Does the team fly or bus?
Team flies. Yeah.
And do they have a landing strip there that's big enough to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because the strip down there is big enough to land, at least at the time, Air Force One and stuff like that. Like it's
good point. Yeah.
So
that's fascinating stuff that has nothing to do with football, but has everything to do with what the Browns are about to embark in. Okay, so there are a lot of topics I want to talk about when we get into this stuff, and Amari Cooper is really the one that's in the back of my head. I want to spend more time on that than this, but let's talk about the rookies first because they were the first to report, and where are we contract wise? Seems like everybody signed, everything's ready to go, and maybe perhaps the health of Zach Zinter would be the next question.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't even know if the health of Zach Zinter is a question, Andy, because he was pretty much a participant all throughout the offseason program. That injury, as gruesome as it was against Ohio State, it was a fracture and not torn ligaments and muscles and tendons and things like that. So, he looked fine to me. Just watching him go through the drills on the practice field. So I'll be honest with you, I really don't think his health really is going to be a factor in this camp.
All right. Well, that's fair. Okay. Otherwise, this rookie class that comes in, there really isn't a lot of room for them. I mean, they're here to be backups because when you don't have a first round pick,
right,
you're really not looking at a whole lot of starters. And if you're looking at the roster down the road, they need to build some depth. They need some of these guys to step up so that they know that there's a future beyond Zinter and maybe Mike Hall and Nathaniel Watson, who's playing middle linebacker. So
yeah, I mean, look, I think that Michael Hall will have an opportunity to compete for some rotational time in that defensive front. Maybe Jawan Briggs will as well. We'll see there. Jamari Thrash, I'm not real sure what to expect from him. Right now, I've got him penciled in as the number 6 wide receiver on this team. Just, again, unknown quantity there. You mentioned Zach Zinter. I think the only way we see him this year is, God forbid, if there's an injury situation that, forces him into action. But I don't think that they come into the year with any designs on him seeing significant playing time. But hey, look, last year, remember what happened with DeJuan Jones, right? They didn't have any designs on him really seeing the field, especially after what we saw in that rookie minicamp. But he looked fairly good in training camp. And then obviously the injuries up front on that offensive line forced him into service. And he ended up being, in my view, one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL there for a while. So, with Jack Conklin going down, and then obviously Jed Wills getting banged up. So they've got 3 tackles for 2 spots. We'll see how that gets sorted out during camp.
It's going to be an interesting run here when we talk about the rookies, because I just don't feel like we're going to see them in the preseason, and we probably won't see a whole lot of them throughout the regular season. But you're right, Daryl. There are guys that can step up. All right, when we return, I want to talk about the story going into camp, and that story is Amari Cooper. And I still consider it, when I hear the words "hold in," probably to be one of the dumbest things in sports. We'll talk about that when we come back. He is Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. It's always game day in Cleveland. It's always game day in Cleveland. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. We're brought to you locally by Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. All right, Daryl, when we last left the podcast there, and by the way, we appreciate everybody who is not only listening to us on the Odyssey app, but everyone who watches on YouTube. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you. Daryl, let's talk more about now the Amari Cooper situation and this, the notion that maybe he could be a hold in, like we're watching in Green Bay over, the last couple of days here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously something can get done between now and that first practice on Thursday, but I don't expect him to report for training camp on Tuesday. I don't expect him to be at the first practice Thursday at the Greenbrier.
Why? I'm just curious why.
Well, this is his only leverage, right? I mean, he's going into the final year of his contract. He went from, at the time of signing that extension with the Dallas Cowboys, for about $20 million per year. That made him the number 2 paid wide receiver in the game. Now he's down to like 20th, as far as pay. And you look at his production the last couple of years for the Browns, and there's long story history. We've had some great wide receivers come through Cleveland over the years. Obviously, Paul Warfield, top of mind there, right? The Hall of Famer. But the Browns had never had a wide receiver catch for 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons until Amari Cooper has done that. So he has been everything and then some, both on as well as off the field for the Browns. So this is the business side of the game. This holdout that he's doing it's not his personality, if that makes sense. But
no, that totally makes sense. I think the hard part is, you look at it from a fan's perspective, you're like, the guy's got a contract. Like, I don't understand why he feels like he can hold out. I mean, if he didn't like it, he shouldn't have signed the deal in the first place with Dallas, And so I don't care if time has gone by or other guys have been able to pay. He's got a deal, man. And by the way, what's he going to lose? $50,000 a day for every day he doesn't show up,
which he'll make up in the new deal that he gets. Look, this happens all the time in the NFL, especially with guys.
Doesn't make it right, but yeah, I agree. And look, I'm a huge Amari Cooper fan. I just think sometimes if you're looking at it from someone who goes to work and you're trying to make $15 an hour and you've got a deal, we'd all like to not show up to work and say, "Oh, give me more money." But in the real world, this doesn't. I know it's pro sports, but it's one of those things where you're like, okay, all right, well, and I don't think anybody's going to have a problem with it. Up until the time that we're recording this, the day before the players have to report for camp. Like, no one cares. No one cares. Now, when he doesn't start showing up, you're like, damn, I'm looking at this depth chart for the Browns, and I'm like, I don't feel so good about this. Just Elijah Moore and Jared Jeudy and maybe Cedric Tillman. It looks a lot different when Amari Cooper's name is bold and right out there in all caps.
Well, and again, he's 30 years old. This is really his last opportunity to get paid elite wide receiver money. Let's be honest about it, right? So that's why he's going to hold out. While it does run complete opposite to his personality, it's the business side of the game. He's got 1 year left on his deal. If he gets hurt this year, Andy, that really kills his chances next year. And you see what I'm saying?
No, I get it. I totally understand it.
And here's the thing.
Look, I want him to get paid. Look, I think Amari Cooper deserves to be, paid top 10, right? Even at the worst, top 10 in the NFL. I'm just trying to be, and I'm being generous because I probably think it should be higher, but reality is telling me top 10, right? Well, top 15?
At least top 15.
That's fair.
Right.
So
And to me, look, here's how Andrew, and this is why you haven't heard me really hyping up this situation as being like all of a sudden this big dramatic or cataclysmic event that the Browns have to deal with. Because let's be honest with everyone, in the pre-Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry era, right? Every little issue was
drama.
it was a three-ring circus, right? That
Yep.
This is not. I mean, the way his teammates and the way Stefanski spoke so professionally about the situation during minicamp, right? Not one word of criticism. Hey, these things happen. It's part of the business of football. You know, we all love Amari. He's a big part of this team, et cetera, right? Nobody was holding against Amari Cooper that he was not there for veteran minicamp because they get it. They saw what he did for the team the last 2 years.
Right.
And the impact that he had. And they also saw how he conducted himself off the field, right? And so you look at that and so he gets I don't want to say a pass, but he gets a tremendous amount of latitude of understanding from everybody, right? And Andrew Berry has a tremendous amount of positive equity when it comes to dealing with players. And the situation that I keep going back to is how Andrew Berry handled the Odell Beckham Jr. fiasco, right? Berry, to your point, right? You're under contract. You got to honor your contract, show up to work, right? Berry could have done that very easily to Odell and then just said, hey, if you ain't happy, then stay away and we'll just fine you for conduct detrimental to the team. Like Berry really could have drawn a line in the sand here and gotten real combative with Beckham Jr. and his camp, right? But he didn't do that. He said, okay, you're unhappy. Clearly, you know, we're not real thrilled right now. There's problems. You know what? Let's get this taken care of. We'll make you a free agent. You can go wherever you want and we'll just move forward. Wish you the best of luck. And that's what Berry did. It was a very professional and humanistic approach to that situation. And I keep going back to that in my head because that's what Andrew Berry is about. He doesn't make emotional decisions. He doesn't make decisions in a vacuum. He tries to treat everyone with respect and with fairness, agents and players, right? People within the organization. And I have absolutely no doubts he's trying to do the same with Amari Cooper while also at the same time protecting the interests of the Cleveland Browns. And you might say, okay, Daryl, well, what exactly are the interests of the Cleveland Browns at this point?
Hey, Daryl, let me ask you a question. What are the interests of the Cleveland Browns? Aren't you glad I asked?
I appreciate you playing along.
No problem.
It is this. Again, he's turned 30 years old. Berry wants to protect the Browns long term. So he's probably not going to be wild about doing a 4 or 5 year contract extension for him, which would mean 5 or 6 more seasons, including this year, right? My proposal is this, and it fits right in with the Andrew Berry MO when it comes to how he likes to do business, not only with free agents, but his own players, right? I say Berry should give him a 3-year contract extension, meaning Cooper would be under contract for 4 more years with the Browns. At the end of the contract, he's 34, right? However,
it goes against everything the Browns have done, though, right? Because once you hit 30, man, it's Logan's Run, and I forgot what it's called again, but you go to that circle thing where you go away.
Here's why it doesn't run contrary to the Browns guardrails and how they do business. Because you give him you front load the contract, and Berry does this with all the contracts minus the Deshaun Watson contract. That was an outlier, but Berry likes to front load with cash contracts, signing bonus, right?
Right.
So give Amari a nice signing bonus for this season, right? Elevate him to around 25, maybe 26 million in annual value over that 3-year extension. So maybe it's a 3-year extension I'm just throwing numbers out. And this is just me speculating, trying to come up with something like, let's say 3 years, $80 million, and you guarantee 50 million of the 80, right? So in the final 2 years of that deal, you can get out harm-free if you're the Cleveland Browns. So if Cooper's production trails off in these next 2 seasons here in 24 and 25, well, in March of 2026, you can get out of the contract pain-free. Amari got paid his guaranteed money up front. You're not suffering any significant salary cap penalties, and there you go. Right. So you solve a short-term problem, okay, with a big picture thought, while also
All right. So why hasn't this happened yet? Why isn't this done?
because it's just not done. Because Amari, or I should say, Amari's agent and Andrew Berry haven't been able to get on the same page right now.
Daryl, you need to get in the meeting room and just like you need to be an arbitrator.
Here's the thing. If I've thought of this, Andy,
they have to.
I'm pretty sure Andrew Berry has thought of this as well.
Nope, he's watching now or listening now, and he's like, "Up, Daryl just gave me an epiphany. I guess I needed Daryl on this one. Let me go to the bullpen. Here we go. Daryl's coming in. Daryl, let's come back here in a second.
He's not doing that.
No, I know he's not. All right, I want to come back because Daryl has a theory. What is his theory on how to pay for the new dome? Daryl Ryder opens up his wallet and checkbook next. It's always game day in Cleveland. It's always game day in Cleveland. We are preseason edition because we are about to hop into the preseason for your Cleveland Browns. It's always game day in Cleveland, brought to you by Smiley One and Bryant, Northeast Ohio's premier heating and cooling solution. All right, Daryl, we've talked about the bigger stories, the going to Greenbrier, the what's going on with Amari Cooper, what's that situation going to be like, what's going to play out.
You missed the biggest story of the offseason, though, by the way.
No, I didn't. Go ahead. What is it?
Dustin Hopkins has been extended.
All right. Yes. Are you good? Oh, look at you. You're giving me the touchdown sign.
It's good.
I'm excited about Dustin. I hope he's healthy. That's all I care about.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he doesn't have to tackle anybody this year. Because
my question is what's Cade York's initial thought then when that happens?
I don't know if Cade York's making the roster.
Is Cade going to make it to Greenbrier?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure.
Yeah. This new kickoff rule is going to make it. This new kickoff
yes,
rule
it is
going to be one of the biggest storylines to watch in training camp. We've gotten a peek of it during the offseason program. We've seen Bubba Ventrone rep it with the special teams unit. We've seen Bubba coaching it. We've seen Mike Vrabel helping Bubba coach it a little bit as well. But this new kickoff rule, game changer. It really is. But all of a sudden, I kind of do feel for Dustin Hopkins' hamstrings here. I'm a little concerned because I think once you break through that line, you're gone to the house. I don't know if you maybe put a safety valve back there or something like that in front of the kicker. It is from an alignment standpoint or whatnot, but this thing's going to be a game changer. But yeah, hopefully Dustin Hopkins doesn't have to be chasing anybody down. And the kicking line, I think that's what it's called now. The kicking line holds and opposing returners aren't able to score through. But it'd be really wild this year is if we get offense scores touchdown, then we have kickoff return for a touchdown, and then another kickoff return for a touchdown. At some point, I got to think that that's going to pop up in this season.
Could be week one.
Like with it, and you're talking about 3 touchdowns in the span of less than 60 seconds of gameplay.
The key though is you've got to have somebody who can do an 80-yard dash, right?
Yeah,
and be so slick that he can get by the defenders.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think once you are able to break through that kickoff line at about the 35, 40-yard line when that engagement takes place, I think you're gone. You're off to the races. And that's why cornerbacks and safeties and wide receivers, you're going to need a lot of you're going to need a lot of speed on your kickoff defense line, because you're going to need people that have the ability to chase some fools down.
It's going to be interesting to watch that play. All right. Daryl has a theory. Let's play Daryl has a theory on who is going to pay for the new dome.
So as we know, we've had an idea here for the last, 4 or 5 months. I forget when I first reported the numbers, but as far as the actual breakdown for the potential financing of a new dome for the Cleveland Browns in Brook Park. But I got my new Cuyahoga County property tax assessment in the mail.
Oh, congratulations.
And judging by the increase that I will be incurring, I think we just found out how the county plans to pay for their share of the dome.
All right, what is the county's share of the dome?
So right now, it's about $600 million as far as the $1.2 billion public split, right? Because the Browns want to do 1.2 billion for their share of the dome. They want the public to pay for 1.2 billion plus infrastructure for the other half of the dome, right?
All right, how much does Brook Park have to pay for this thing?
So dividing it in half,
Okay.
if you ask the state of Ohio for 600 million, that means the county and local municipality needs to come up with $600 million, right?
Okay.
So I don't think Brook Park has $600 million in a credit.
I don't think so.
So, and I've had a couple of people tell me that one of the ideas that has been floated at the government level is to have the county be the guarantor of Brook Park's portion of the loan or the bonds or however this functions publicly.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't cover City Hall. So
It's okay. I'm not mad at you.
But I was just in my head, I broke out my calculator and I'm like, all right, so if my increase is X dollars a year for my property, right? And let's assume that there's, I don't know, do you think, let me ask you this. Do you think there's 1 million property tax payers in, how many property taxpayers do you think there are actually in Cuyahoga County?
I was just looking that up as you said it, and I was trying to figure out.
Not residents. I'm talking about
Property tax.
owners that pay property tax. 500,000?
I was going to go closer to 400,000.
Okay. All right.
Am I low? I don't know. Do you have the number?
No, I don't. For once, I was not asking you a question facetiously.
Wow. Oh my God. This is a new day.
This just,
I might be able to find it.
Okay. So let's say that's 400,000 property taxpayers in Cuyahoga County, right?
Okay.
Let us say that the average property tax increase, I should say, is $450.
Okay.
Per property taxpayer. That obviously some are going to be paying more than that, some are going to pay lower than that, but let's say that's the average increase, right? So what do we say? 400,000. Let's multiply that by the $450 a year. That is $180 million per year in fresh revenue for the county that they didn't have, right? Just from this new property tax assessment and whatnot, right?
Okay.
So let's round that up to about 200 million. The county now all of a sudden, I think, would be able to afford the bonds or whatever the financing mechanism they would use for their portion of the dome.
All right, so I'm going to give you a number here just to kind of just backtrack and make sure this sounds safe. So according to CuyahogaCounty.gov,
okay,
the treasurer's office is responsible in collecting nearly $3 billion in property taxes every year.
Okay.
So that's where they are now. They collect $3 billion a year.
So this would take them to like 3.2 billion.
Okay, correct. Yeah.
Or maybe even more. I don't know how many property taxpayers there are in the county. Obviously, if there's more, then that number goes up.
Oh, wait a minute. We were talking county?
Yeah,
because I first thought when you said, I was thinking city of Cleveland. I don't know why I was thinking that. That number's way low. That number's way low. It's way more than
400,000 taxpayers.
Yeah, it's way more than 400,000 taxpayers. Way more. It's got to be. If they're responsible for paying $3 billion, I wish I could just find the number
in any
how many. Yeah. So go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
That's fine. In any event, right? They're going to be raising with this new increase hundreds of millions of dollars in additional annual revenue for the county. Correct. Therefore, let's say the annual public or county finance portion, what the principal and interest, right? Let's say the obligation is $50 million per year, and that includes the interest, rate, right? Because
Okay.
the bonds and all, you're still paying interest on all that. And you multiply that over 30 years, you're looking at $1.5 billion final price tag. Because again, you're just getting the actual, you're not getting the price with interest. The dome costs $2.4 billion, but that doesn't include interest on any loans that are needed to finance this project, right?
Mhm.
So my point is, though, is this property tax increase that the county has come up with now with this latest assessment, which happens every 6 years, they could be able to absorb with no vote. This would get
Mm.
around having to put anything on the ballot for fans and the general public that say yay or nay to a dome. It would allow them to absorb that cost and have the funds to be able to help the Browns build the dome. That is my wild, out of left field. Maybe it's not out of left field personal theory, because that it kind of dawned on me, because as I was going through the numbers of what the dome's going to cost, and how the Browns think that the public-private partnership would break down, what the shares of it would be, and things like that, I was just like, man, $600 million from the state of Ohio is a lot of money, but
Right.
the state like that's in their wheelhouse. They handle those type of size projects all the time. It's also a lot of money for locally. How would they raise that money? And then we get these assessments. Like, I think I just figured out how they can raise the money.
Well, let me give this to you, because and then I wonder if this is fair, and I wonder how people would vote for it, or if they wouldn't have to vote for it. If you're saying so, the county can just implement this tax and they don't have to go to the taxpayers on it, right? That's what you're saying.
It's an assessment that the county does every 6 years,
Right.
based on improvements to your home and stuff like that. Like, I'm able to appeal anyone is able to appeal their their assessment to try and lower their new tax obligation. But I already know, because as you know, all the home improvement I do, there's
Right.
no way I'd win my appeal. So,
I
but yeah, and again, I'm just like basing on, because I don't live in an opulent home at
Sure.
all. And I live
I can see by your bobbleheads. I mean, really, come on, Daryl. Look at
and,
that one over there.
I also live in the city of Cleveland, which is where some of the most affordable real estate is in the county. I don't live in the suburbs and yes, I've checked, new build homes starting price tag are $500,000. You know what I'm saying? And I got to tell you, the new build homes, not that much bigger than the house I currently live in either. So, if the house that I live in, and this is what I'm going to be paying in addition, if that's what my number is, I can only imagine what the numbers are for houses that are worth significantly more money than mine is. And I
Right.
just think of all that money the county now has found, right, and going to be able to generate in property tax. It makes sense, right?
Well, let me give you just real quick, because I don't want to spend a ton of more time on this. But so if you look at
looking up the wrong thing on websites.
well, no, I wasn't that I was looking up the wrong. I was just guesstimating, and then I was thinking, wait a minute, the population of the city of Cleveland isn't what I thought it was. So let me give you real numbers according to the 2020 census, which is now would be 4, maybe 6 years old by the time they actually would have to do some taxing. In Cuyahoga County alone, there are this is according to 2020 census, there were 615,000 plus, almost 616,000 units available, of which 556,000 were occupied, and that there were almost 60,000 empty at that point. So let me just double check that, and that is correct.
Is that include apartment, or is that just a building?
Housing unit, defined as housing unit.
Okay.
So I do think that includes apartments.
Yeah. So the building numbers are actually going to be less than that, because obviously you're talking
total housing units, occupied, vacant housing units, and for Cuyahoga County and Greater Cleveland counties. Now, listen, let me give you the county. We talked about this before we did the show. Is it fair just to go to Cuyahoga County and say this, or should you go to the metro region, which is now Cuyahoga, Geauga, Lake, Lorraine, Medina, Portage, Summit? So that's 7 counties.
You know where the regional's coming from? The state of Ohio portion. That's where that's coming from.
So you're saying, okay, so you're saying so I mean, but there could be a state of Ohio portion of that, and then a regional. We have Rita, right?
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that I think that you view the regional thing as it's coming. The state component covers the region, the county, and the local municipality components cover the local contribution. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But I wonder. Okay, so let's just say you went with that metro area. You've got over 5 million total units. Almost you're 50 to 5.2 million total housing units, 4.8 occupied units, and then at the time in 2020 there were only 433 vacant units at that. So I wonder if you go to and say to the region, here's the deal, we got every county involved, and now you're looking at raising what do we say, 200 million?
I clearly I'm on the conservative side there, but
yeah, I know. So let's just say, the numbers come out to something much less, but then you've got to say to the taxpayers, here's the investment that we're going to put in because we're going to create X amount of jobs by doing this. We can promise that the region's going to bring in this much economy and the things like that.
And I think that'll come in the pitch if the Browns ultimately decide to move forward with building that dome.
Yes,
that's all going to come part of that. And I'll be honest with you, we are now in the third quarter. We're at the end of July.
When does this decision need to be made? And let's wrap the show with that.
It needs to be made within the third quarter because the fourth quarter of this year and the first quarter of next year needs to be spent on aligning the dollars to get the financing in place to get this project, moving down the line. But they need to make a decision. Are they going to renovate or are they going to build the dome? That has to come within, I would say, the next 60 days, 90 days at the very latest. So,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Daryl, next time we talk to you, you're at Greenbrier? Yes.
I'll be at the Greenbrier. And then I guess the next time I see you in person will be at the groundbreaking for the dome.
Oh, that'll be great. That'll be so 60 to 90 days. I'll see you then. He's Daryl Ryder. I'm Andy Baskin. Thanks again for joining us. And we want to thank Evan O'Brien, who's our outstanding producer. We're back. We're moving. We're ready to go. So you'll be seeing more episodes, not only on YouTube, but you'll be listening to more episodes on the Odyssey.com app as we progress and get ready for the season. It's always game day in Cleveland.